One of our viewers recently wrote us and said, how can we get journalists, television broadcasters, to read the research that you, Randall, have done on Islam? As you know, we have covered Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and more importantly, we've covered the history of Muhammad himself, the founder of the Muslim religion. And by the way, the West used to call Muslims Mohammedans. Mohammedans, because they were followers of Muhammad. But again, I digress. One of our writers said, how can we get journalists to read this material? Well, you can't get them to, but you can invite them to. And here is a way that you, as a viewer, could perhaps be involved in sounding the alarm, in waking up the conscience and really the intellect of Americans by inviting them to our website to read the 4 papers, basically short theses that I had to write for my master's program concerning Islam. And they cover topics such as the Muslim Brotherhood and is Sharia law incompatible with human rights? And how are the words and the deeds of Muhammad used by Muslim terrorists to recruit more terrorists? And how are the words and deeds of Muhammad duplicated by terrorists? I learned a long time ago. I'm going to tell you this because I've said it before on the air, and I know that it flips people out, but I'm going to say it again. I immersed myself in a study of Islam, reading primary Islamic sources, reading Islamic sites, and I asked myself the question, what if this is true? All right? And if it was true, then I had a duty to become a Muslim. In other words, I considered becoming a Muslim. I had to at least detach myself far enough and deep enough in my study, far enough from the truths that I hold. I had to detach myself far enough from them and put myself inside of the narrative of Muhammad and the Quran and the Hadith and the Sunnah and the 4 rightly guided caliphs, and say, okay, what if it's true? Not what if it's true for me or what if it's true for you. What if it's true? In other words, what if God really did send Muhammad to correct the errors of time? And Muhammad's position was, and what he said was, that the Old Testament was given to Moses and to the Old Testament prophets, that the Gospels were given to Christ, to Jesus, and that that the scribes and the rabbis and the priests and the monks had corrupted the texts and had changed them. And one of the lengthy passages dealing with Jesus says that God will say to him, did you tell people to worship you? And Jesus will respond, no, Allah, I did not. None shall be worshipped but you. So Muhammad dealt with this. He dealt with the Old and New Testaments and said, look, the people that handled their written record corrupted and perverted and changed the texts. And that I, Muhammad, have been sent as the last prophet, the seal of the prophets that were before me, to correct the errors of time and to lay down once and for all the truth of how God is to be worshipped. And that's why a large part, a significant minority, but a significant part nonetheless, of the Quran is a retelling of Old and New Testament stories. Okay? Muhammad believed, or at least he said he believed, that those Old and New Testament stories in their original perfect form were true, and so they retooled them in the Quran to correct the perversions that allegedly happened with the Old and New Testament. So you say to yourself, all right, or I said to myself, what if that really did happen? What if it's true? Well, then I would have a duty to follow Muhammad. I would have a duty to become a Muslim, to make the profession of faith, and to become a Muslim. Well, Randall, why didn't you do that? Well, there were several reasons, and I'm going to tell them to you right now. Number one, actually, you know what I'll do? I'll take a quick break, and I'll tell them to you, and you can guess during the commercial. What was it? What kept him from becoming a Muslim? My wife, she would have killed me. I'll be right back.